Awesome. Hey everyone, welcome to AWA Nights Nairobi. So happy to have you join us today for a brief session on XR and Africa using the Godot Engine. But before I pass it over to our guest speaker of the day, I'd like to talk about AWA Live for a minute. So yes, AWE, it's a group of 34 Nites, which are basically like communities across the globe, and they are spread over the globe. So we have night groups in USA, in Asia, and Nairobi is kind of like the flagship of Africa. And what we are trying to do is build a community around AR and VR and XR technologies. So AW Live is the platform that you're joining us with right now, and it's basically an always-on platform for the XR community, and its purpose is to help people, enthusiasts, professionals in the ecosystem to learn, connect, and grow. And it's a place where XR business thrives. So you'll find events in the AW Live platform. You'll find networking opportunities where we can be matched with people within the global community. And finally, you'll have virtual expos where for the events, they can be streamed here. So right now we have AWA USA. It's coming up at the end of this month. And you can feel free to use the code 23 Night SD to get 20% discount on the ticket prices. Um, where can you find AWE? AWE is almost everywhere. So as I mentioned, there's AWE USA that is happening in May 31st to June 2nd, and it will be in Santa Clara. The next global event will be in Asia, taking place in Singapore in the end of August, 30th to 31st. And then there will be AWE for the EU or the European region. And that one will be happening in October 24th and 25th. And it will be taking place in Vienna. And as always, we have AW Live, which is an always-on platform. You can come in any day, anytime, and connect with events and people. So these are some of the upcoming AWE Live events. So we do have like a weekly XR podcast is usually that usually happens every week. And then there's also the XR pub crawl for Macon. That one happens on the last Friday of the month. And then we have two events. One is happening actually tomorrow, and it's about building a world-class XR educational facility. And then there's another one happening the day after tomorrow, which is about giving your virtual beings a voice. So maybe creating multilingual experiences and the likes. And last but not least, we have AW has an academy where you can learn about fundraising preparations for your XR startups, and just to get the basic knowledge on how to go about fundraising for these types of technology. And also, if you're looking at learning about web augmented reality or web AR, the AW Academy also has a workshop that you can actually attend. You can sign up and attend. Lastly, we usually have like a new weekly XR newsletter, so you can get news straight to your inbox, and you can feel free to subscribe for that newsletter at the end at awxr.com. And also feel free to follow AWE on social media to get daily updates on what's happening in the XR industry. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the guest speaker of the day. His name is Ahmed, a personal friend of mine. He's a game creator, but I don't want to sell him so much. I think I'll give him a chance to introduce himself and to take us through how to use Godot Engine in the African markets, especially for XR. But if you have any questions, feel free to jot them down on the chat, and then we'll address them in the Q&A section. So over to you, Ahmed.
Great. As Brian mentioned, we're friends. We've met before. We've interacted before. But apart from that, mostly a game dev enthusiast. I sort of like have a number of games which I've experimented on HIO. I also have a product known as Game Creator, which is basically a very simplistic product that allows you to quickly create games. But also I sort of do technical vetting at X-Team, where we sort of recruit for various clients at X-Team, and I sort of make sure that a lot of the people who join have the right opportunities as per their profile and what they're doing. Yeah, basically that's a very summarized introduction of myself. And yeah, Wachanga, anything that you need to add? We should just begin. Yeah. Great. So let me then begin by talking a bit about the opportunity space for XR. Let me just open the slideshow. And basically, in context of open source technologies, personally, I'm an open source enthusiast. I've been working with Godot Engine, including for the game creator product, which I've talked about earlier, right? And basically today what I'm going to talk about is how Godot Engine and OpenXR can sort of like open opportunities for African developers. But this is also something that is going to be shared with a lot of the markets, developing markets are going to find it quite similar, right? I know people put credits at the end, but I'll personally start with the credits anyway. Some of the content that I have here come from these three sources, right? And there's going to be a demo video at the end that is going to demonstrate the capabilities or technologies that we are talking about, all right? And yeah, and let's start with where is XR adoption going to be important, right? We have, according to the Middle East and Africa Virtual Reality Market Industry Trends Report, the sectors that are going to be major to adopt are going to be automotive, aerospace and defense, entertainment and media, healthcare, education, industrial and commercial. There are other sectors also. But the major driver is going to be in the gaming and entertainment industry. So that's going to push XR adoption a lot further. There are challenges in terms of the lack of effective user experience design in terms of like what studios are doing and all that. And the sector is growing. It's expected to be at US dollars 293.70 million by 2029. And the hardware sector is going to be the major sector that is going to be growing most out of all these segments. Okay. So why is OpenXR appropriate? I'm going to talk about why OpenXR is going to be the technology that we should focus on as an African sector more than any other technology. For context, there are various players in the XR space. There's obviously, we know there's Oculus, there's TeamVR. Some of these I don't need to mention, some of you guys know. And they're distributed in between virtual reality, augmented reality, and all that. So what is the problem right now is that because all of these players are sort of in the space, it creates a lot of fragmentation. So you have VR apps working with different game engines, and all of them have to interface with different SDKs from the different vendors, right? So what problem does this present? It costs money. A lot of time is spent developing applications that are going to be cross-platform, right? And obviously, like the addressable market size for these solutions, you can't say there's a significant market in each and every one of these technologies to say they're going to just focus on specific types of technologies, right? And I mean, as African game development studios, we have very limited budgets end of the day to sort of like roll out solutions on VR XR that are working with fragmented markets, or working with the products that produces fragmentation. So OpenXR comes to solve this fragmentation. And it is a royalty-free open standard that provides high-performance access to AR and VR platforms by presenting a unified sort of like an SDK and making sure that we're able to easily come up with solutions that are cross-platform. Okay, so I mean, it does all that, but as you can see here, how it achieves that is by creating an application interface and a device plugin interface. So it has two interfaces that it interacts with. The application interface is more towards the application orientation, and then the device plugin interface works more with the device level itself, hardware, software, application areas, right? Okay, so what are the limitations of using OpenXR technology? So it is that the SDKs for all these individual vendors will still give you more access to more functionality and more control, right? And for the same set of these technologies, right, you're going to find that across the various devices, there's different types of technologies that are being supported. So some of them will support, for instance, OpenGL. Some of them will not support OpenGL. Some of them will support Vulkan. Some of them will not. Some of them will support DirectX. Some of them will not support DirectX. So even if you're going to use OpenXR, there's still the challenge of what is the limitation of the hardware platform that you're trying to target itself and the SDK itself. All right. One other alternative to OpenXR is a technology known as OpenVR or SteamVR, which is a Valve technology. It's newer, but it's not as, I can't say it's as sophisticated as OpenXR is. All right. So how does Godot Engine come in? As we've mentioned before, like the major driver in the adoption of XR technology in Africa is going to be in the games and entertainment industry, right? The Godot Engine has a number of benefits, right? So first of all, it is a free cross-platform game engine that is 2D and 3D capable. It is under the MIT license. It makes use of OpenXR, all right? And it has, visual as well as coding tools for games in 2D and 3D, supports GDScript, which is a proprietary solution, can make use of C# as well as C and C++, right? And it can also export to all the major platforms, desktop, mobile, HTML5. There are capabilities that will allow it to sort of like also export for consoles. There are some games which have been exported to console, and the guys at W4 Games, which is the professional organization that has come out of Godot Engine itself, is going to focus more on console adoption with Godot 4 now. All right, so there's going to be a lot more focus in the future, in the near future, to allow it to be also playing the console market. One of the major advantages why it's also appropriate for developing markets and African markets is that it's extremely lightweight and can work with very low spec machines. You can make it work with a 4 GB RAM machine. It's highly performant. It's a lot more efficient when it comes to resources, especially as a development platform compared to technologies like Unity. All right, so this is how it looks like. At the moment, Godot 4, this is how it looks like when you're sort of working on a 3D game. It's very polished. It's quite sophisticated. It doesn't have as much sophistication as engines like Unity Engine, Unreal Engine, but the future is bright, and it's one of the ideal tools to adopt in Africa, in African markets, and in developing markets. So primarily at the moment, Godot Engine only supports OpenXR out of the box, but there are possibilities to extend. So you could use something known as GD extension, which is an extension system with Godot Engine, to develop integrations to other XR platforms or other VR platforms if you want. That is something that has been attempted. One of the fellows that is going to be in the end video that we're going to see, who was doing a demo of it, has actually created extensions to it to other hardware platforms, not within the context of OpenXR. So why the Godot engine for OpenXR, right? I've mentioned a number of reasons why Godot Engine is fantastic, but why the two of these together? Because then it complements, these two technologies complement each other quite well, especially because both of them are working on open standards and open source at the same time, right? So an open source engine, open standards, very lightweight, and the fact that OpenXR opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of integrating with different types of VR and AR platforms. All right, so I'm going to leave you with a demo here of how, as I mentioned, this is a video that was coming towards the end. Bastian is one of the core contributors to the Godot engine. He's actually developed OpenXR extensions for Godot 4. So I'll sort of mute and have you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Godot XR tutorial. Apologies for the silence on my channel, but I've been hard at work doing my part in getting Godot 4 towards beta. I will be back to making more videos soon. Now that Godot 4 is in beta and has OpenXR support nearly on par with Godot 3, I can do a quick video on setting things up in Godot 4, as things are slightly different. We will do this by setting up a very basic project. For this video, we will be using Godot 4 Beta 2. While OpenXR has been available in Godot 4 for some time now, Beta 2 adds support for OpenXR on Android. And this time, only support for the Meta Quest is available, but we should soon add support for other Android-based devices as well. We will also be using the mobile Vulkan renderer, even for VR on desktop. The desktop renderer works in VR as well, but will require beefier hardware. On mobile hardware, there are still a number of performance issues that we hope to solve in the very near future. You can find the download of the beta version of Godot 4 on the news article page. I've linked it in the description below, however, you may wish to check for newer versions. Scroll down the page to find the link to the download page. We will download the standard build. On the next page, download the version of Godot you need.
So for a quick explainer, in actual sense, Godot 4 is officially out. This was when it was in beta, but the concepts are still the same. But let's continue watching the video.
I'll be using the Windows version. Open up the zip file and copy the executable in a place of your choice. Now we open Godot. We start by creating a new project, and we select the folder we want to create our project in. We give our project a name and press the Create Folder button to create a folder for our project. And as mentioned before, select the mobile renderer for our project. And we press Create. First, we open up our project settings. There is a bug in Beta 2 that has already been fixed, where the renderer settings aren't fully applied. So we go to the Renderer tab and make sure the mobile renderer is selected for the mobile platform. Next, there is a new section for XR settings. We go to Shaders first. Enabling our shader setting tells Godot to compile the shaders needed for stereoscopic rendering. These are not compiled by default, as most games won't need them. Finally, we select the OpenXR settings to enable OpenXR. This is needed because on Vulkan, initialization of OpenXR needs to happen very early on in the startup process. This also means that OpenXR will be initialized automatically the moment your game or application starts. Now we press Save and Restart so these new settings take effect. Now we can start setting up our main scene. This is nearly identical to how things were in Godot 3, however, our nodes have new names. We create a new 3D scene and rename this. As always, I save the scene right away. Save your changes often. We start with adding our XR Origin 3D node. And we add an XR Camera 3D node as well. Next, we add an XR Controller 3D node and rename this to Left Hand. Here is our first difference. Controllers are now identified by named trackers. We select our left hand tracker. Each controller now also identifies multiple locations on the controller called poses. We thus need to select the pose we want. Default is the pose the XR interface identifies as the default. For OpenXR, this generally matches the grip pose. The aim pose is a pose generally placed at the front of the controller, pointing forward. This is the pose we will be using today. The grip pose is a pose generally placed on the grips of the controller, often orientated flush with the body of the controller. The skeleton pose is a pose providing a base for the bone armature for hand tracking. This is only available if hand tracking is supported. In Beta 3, a new pose will become available called the palm pose, which, if supported by the XR platform, gives the location of the palm of the hand of the player. We need to add a second XR controller 3D node. We rename this to right hand. Select our right hand tracker and our aim pose. Even though the position of these nodes are controlled by the XR system, I create a box mesh for this node and size it appropriately. Then repeat for the other hand. We'll also create a Mesh Instance 3D node to represent our floor. We'll create a plane mesh for this and size it appropriately. We also need to create a script to do a little bit of initialization. This code is very similar to that in Godot 3. However, since our OpenXR interface is automatically initialized, we only need to check for successful initialization. We first find our OpenXR interface, then we check if it was found and if it is initialized. If so, we obtain our viewport and enable the XR mode on this viewport. One big change in Godot 4 is that we no longer have a default environment. The background and lighting we have in our editor is not part of our scene. We thus add a world environment node and create a new environment. We set our background mode to sky. And we create a physical sky material, which gives us a nicer, more natural background. Next, we add a directional light to our scene. This light interacts with our background. Now we run our project. As my Steam VR is still starting in the background, there is a brief moment where we have no tracking data and our head is on the floor. Hence, we only see our background. As soon as tracking starts, we can look around and move our hands around, and we see that everything works. Godot does not provide any default logic for controlling your player in VR outside of physical movement. This is up to the game developer to develop. However, we do have a toolkit available for those who want to hit the ground running. I will leave a link in the description below to this toolkit. Note that its master branch and the release in the asset library are for Godot 3. The master branch contains a full demo of the functionality offered by this toolkit. There is a 4.0 development branch that contains a version of this toolkit ported to Godot 4. This does not yet contain a demo, but we are working on porting this to Godot 4 as well. Covering this toolkit is beyond the scope of this tutorial video, but I will be making future videos related to the toolkit soon. For exporting to Android devices, a few extra steps need to be taken. The first is making sure the supporting toolset is installed and properly configured. I've linked to the documentation page on the official website that covers this setup. In Godot itself, the first thing we need to do is ensure that the export templates are installed. Go to the editor menu and select Manage Export Templates. In the pop-up window, there is simply a download and install button that will install the correct version of the export templates. After this, we need to go to the project menu and select Install Android Build Template. Godot's default Android export is easy to use, but fairly limited. Installing the Android build template in the project folder creates a new folder called Android and populates it with a build setup that allows us to create more complex Android packages. One of the features this enables is for us to add the plugin that we need in our project. The plugin we need is our OpenXR Loaders plugin, which we find on GitHub. This plugin currently only contains the OpenXR loader for the Meta Quest, but will soon contain other loaders as well. This plugin will be made available through the asset library in due time, but for now we can download it through the releases page. Simply download the Godot OpenXR loader zip file found here. Once downloaded, we open the zip file and go down into the plugin folder. Here we find the files and folders we need to copy into the plugin folder in our project. Back in Godot, we need to configure our export. For this, we open up the Export menu and select Export. Here we press Add to add our Android export preset. We'll change the name of this export to indicate this entry is for our Meta Quest. Once we support other devices, we'll need to add an entry for each device. Next, we'll tick the Use Custom Build tick box, and then select our Godot OpenXR Meta plugin. Eventually, we'll have entries here for each device, and you should only select a single one. Now we scroll down until we find our XR Features section. Here we need to select OpenXR in the XR Mode dropdown. The other settings here may be important if you wish to use those features. For now, we will leave those alone. Making sure that our Quest is attached to our computer using a USB cable, you should now see an Android icon in the top right-hand side of the window. Pressing this icon will build our project and export it to the Quest. Make sure to wear the Quest before the project is pushed to the Quest, or it may not start, and you'll have to try again. And presto, it is running on the Quest. That is where we'll leave things today. I'm planning a number of videos related to the new XR features in Godot 4, so if you don't want to miss those, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, or follow me on Twitter. If you want to support my work financially, please consider becoming a member of my channel. A like on this video if you enjoyed the content is always appreciated. Until next time.
Great. So basically, that is the end of the presentation, sort of like creating an end-to-end sort of stack, showing you exactly how everything fits in, how OpenXR and Godot Engine sort of like work together. Yeah, so I'll be open to if people have any questions to ask, especially about Godot Engine and OpenXR technologies themselves.
Thank you so much. That was a brilliant presentation. Personally, I have a question. So, for someone who's coming from a different game engine, what is the best way to learn about getting started with Godot?
Yeah, fortunately, I can say that Godot is not such a difficult engine to comprehend. I would guess that, I don't know, but I might be biased. I would guess that Unity is a more difficult engine to learn. There's a number of ways you can learn Godot Engine. One of the sources, let me just put that in the charts, is GD Quests. GD Quests, one of the community members and also contributed to the documentation in Artifacts, has excellent content on how to orient yourself with Godot Engine. Some of the content is actually premium, so you might have to buy that. Some of it is available for free. Provides a very good foundation. Also, like the documentation on Godot Engine for people who will be able to comprehend it. It's not very difficult. Provides very good orientation also to the platform itself. There's also videos by, I found this from the community members. Let me just search for it. But I can post a video. On Pre-Code Camp, they actually had a video on Godot Engine itself. So let me just, I think it's this one here. Yes, it's this one. Let me just post a link again on the charts for everyone. So they have a very good video, especially on related to 2D development. And those are some of the sources that you can look at. GD Quest being one of the most intuitive, in fact, because the videos are created professionally by people who sort of have experience teaching Godot on a professional capacity. So yeah, so basically those resources, those are what come to the top of my head.
Awesome. Also for the attendees, if you have any question for Ahmed, please kindly drop it in on the chat. I think for me, I'll have one last question. And so one of the things that I've noticed is we have a lot of techies in Africa, but not so many are quite conversant with 3D technologies or XR technology. So what is the level of difficulty learning Godot for someone who's coming from a non-3D or a non-gaming development background?
Yeah. Okay. So personally, I'm mostly a 2D developer. I just quickly oriented myself to 3D just the other day because I didn't see the need to do 3D because most of my passion has been in 2D gaming. But basically, it's, again, there's videos out there showing how you can do that. There's content that GD Quest has also for both 2D and 3D gaming. There's not much difference, to be honest, between 2D Godot 3 and Godot 4. Apart from things like naming conventions, a bit of changes in coding, the environment is a bit different, but the concepts are quite similar. So if you grasp how it works in Godot 3, you can easily adjust to how it works in Godot 4 if you understand a bit of the differences. Now, disclaimer, since Godot 4 is very new, the content on Godot 4 is relatively not very much available yet in terms of a lot of community contribution to the content. The authoritative, I can say GD Quest definitely is going to be a major contributor to coming up with a lot of content for Godot 4. They're already doing that. And the community is going to catch up very soon also. But like the documentation online also is at a decent stage to sort of like show you how you can do both 2D and 3D gaming. 3D gaming does have its differences compared to 2D, which can be overwhelming, but it's not difficult. It's not difficult. There's also like in my scenario, like I've been able to watch a few videos that have brought me up to speed with it, and also complement that with the documentation that they have and whatever I've gotten from GD Quest. Yeah. Majorly, that's it. Any other questions from anyone?
There's a possibility that we lost Brian for a second there. What is the best way for people to contact you?
Okay, so let me put up my contacts on Notepad and share that.
Either that way, or if you leave your contacts in the chat is
Okay.
also good. So yeah.
So let me just write it down in the chat.
Sure.
I'm also available on this email. Let me just put it there. All right.
All right. So until you type down your contacts, we would like to thank everyone that have joined this session. I think it was a really good session, and it gave us another insight, or a better insight about what's happening in Africa at the moment in the XR community and industry. We have a few events coming up tomorrow. Please head to the agenda and check out what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.
There was just a question. I just raised. It can be used. I think it's as creative as you can get, to be honest. You can pretty much do what you can do on Unity also. There, Unity also targets other markets, so it's very possible. It's as good as how you code it. Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. I see. Oh, there was a question in the chat, I see.
Yeah. So that's what I was addressing. Yeah, it can be used in healthcare, construction. It can be used in very many other verticals. You can use it. Yes, it's possible.
All right. So if there are no other questions, yeah, as I said, please go ahead and check out the agenda, and we'll see you on the next events. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.